Welcome back. This is another version of hollow vessel turning, but using some more mechanical devices. And I want to talk to you about the characteristics of these stabilized boring systems. This is a custom-made one. It's not on the market, but it contains all the features that would be on all of the systems. And what I was just doing was using a laser, a stabilized boring system, and a cutter that's known to be right at horizontal, right at proper position inside the vessel where I can't see. Now, for people doing larger vessels, or people wanting really wall thicknesses that are very, very thin, or people who just like the less energetic form of turning, let's say there's something that's helping you do it mechanically, a stabilized system might be the way to go. And there are a number on the market. So I'm not going to finish the vessel as much as I want to talk to you about stabilized systems and what the components are. Starting with what I have right here, basically I have a back frame that prevents the whole system from torquing when the cutter is under pressure during turning. I have a way of inserting various different turning tools, and I have a whole bunch of different cutters. Right now the cutter is facing at a 90-degree angle, or 45-degree angle, excuse me, so I can cut up under a shoulder, but I can very easily move that cutter to the very end for deep hollowing. So I shape the exterior, I drill a pilot hole in here to work through, I insert the cutter, and I control it. Now, in order to know that exact wall thickness, which is what everybody wants to do, these systems all include a laser system. I have developed my own, which is a little different than any of the ones on the market. You can do the same thing. I went onto Amazon and picked up this device, which is just a laser, but it's a laser gun sight. And what's nice about it are two features. Number one, it's designed for working on guns, which I'm not into, but it does not have a vibration problem. Guns create vibration when they fire. This is designed to handle that rigorous characteristic. Second thing, this one has a elevation and windage adjustment. Elevation, windage, which allows me to reposition the laser around this cutting point without a lot of mechanical fiddling. So basically what I would do, I'd loosen the device, turn it on. Now I'm going to be cutting off the end of the cutter here, so that's roughly it. I don't care if this is accurate or not, but I'm in the general area. And so I don't have to fiddle with all this. I can simply adjust the windage and elevation to get the pointer where I want it. Why do I need to move it? If I am cutting under the shoulder right here, the laser marks the wall thickness at this point. But when I'm cutting down here, the laser has to be moved around so it's always tangent to the surface of the wood. So it has to be readjusted depending on what the curve of the vessel is. So I've provided another easy way to do that. Let's talk about what some of the characteristics are of a system, whether it's this or anything else like it. I've got a few points here on the board. Well, my first thought is the reason is to keep that tool at center line. Because as that tool drops or rises, I can move into an area where I could get a catch. And I don't want that. I want to always know that my cutter is right at the proper cutting position, and a stabilized system assures that. Number two, maintain, I'll get the words out in a minute, rotational alignment. What that means is if I have a cutter that's not working right on the center, it's going to want a torque. It's going to want to be pushed downward like this. But with a stabilized system, prevents that tool from being torqued. So that's very helpful. And on big vessels where you're doing a lot of hollowing work, boy, does it ease the amount of work that you have to do. I could literally, with the right stool, sit here and do hollowing on this project seated. This can be done with one hand. So it eases a lot of the work. Well, if we look at systems in a general sense, there's a lot of different ones on the market. They all have several characteristics. They have some sort of a movable arm that allows you to position the laser where you want it. They have an adjustable height. I'm using the tool rest to get it at center line, but the frame that this is sitting in has to also be adjusted so this stays level. This one was made for me by a friend that allowed me to adjust it for a lot of different lathes. It needs to be able to adapt to a number of different kind of cutters. And there's a picture here of the cutters that we have available for this particular setup. Most of them are really simply a piece of high-speed steel tool bit that's been mounted into a round shaft that I can fit into my tool. This is, if I buy one of these from an industrial supply, they are a couple, $3, and I can break them into 2 or 3 different cutters. There are commercial cutters available also that can be adjusted and rotated, but here's that same piece of high-speed steel turning bit. There are custom cutters. I have a couple of round scrapers that I use, the purpose of which is simply to smooth the inside at the very end so that as you run your finger down inside it feels very, very comfortable. Some commercial boring bars, like this one, can be also just used directly. This is very massive in size. It already has a shear angle on the cutting tip, and it could be used directly into the boring system like this. So there's a lot of options. Some of the systems actually work off of the tailstock. They line there, fasten to the tailstock, and use the banjo to stabilize the rest of the systems. Other systems work into the tool post, and some systems are almost handheld. There are a lot of different options. There's some pictures of some that I've taken off the internet just to show you, which are being flashed in the corner here as we talk. The price on a system like this can range over several $100s. So the cost is a feature that you also have to think about. At home, I work on a 20-inch lathe. This is a 16-inch lathe. I'm using precisely the same equipment. The only adjustment I made was to raise and lower, in this case lower, the supporting bar in the back. So stabilized boring systems are an aid to turning vessels. Now this one I turned with this piece yesterday. Actually, I have a smaller version of this system, which is designed literally to work on the mini lathes that I turned this smaller piece with. I've left them on the tendons so I can add finish to them and things like that. Let's talk about where we want to go next. Let me finish hollowing this vessel out. I've got my laser turned on. I have it set for approximately the right location. And I'm going to be cutting right about here, and the part of the cutter I'm going to be using is a little to the left of center. So I want to move my laser over just a little bit. And I want just about that wall thickness. So by using my windage and elevation adjustments on this gun sight, I can make these very fine adjustments very easily. One Way Manufacturing has a device that allows you to be able to rotate the laser pointer around the cutter tip, depending on where you're located. Picture that's in the presentation also. So let me just finish hollowing this out. It needs a little bit more work done at the base. And so I put the straight cutter in because I'm just simply working this corner right down in here. And I can tell where the tip of the tool is. Well, there is thin enough. It's going right off the edge, so that is at wall thickness. Down here, I need a little bit more removed. There's wall thickness. I don't want to take any more off this. I can open up this bottom a little bit more if I want. giving me an indication of wall thickness. I'm still relying on the feel of the tool against the wood to know where the little bumps and bruises inside the piece are, so I can move it very, very smoothly back and forth. I could now easily change the cutter to a round cutter like this, simply to clean up and smooth the inside. As your vessels get larger and you reach farther over the tool rest, the size of the bar needs to increase in size also. Off of my little system, I have a bar like this, which in this distance here, hanging over the tool rest that far, this is not big enough. This is not massive enough. This is more massive for a project this size. I have a bar at home that's over an inch in diameter for really, really big vessels. This does not need to vibrate. So the farther I go in, the more projection I have here, and the more that's a problem. So I finished most of the hollowing in here. I've used the laser to set the wall thickness. It wouldn't hurt to clean up the inside surface a little bit by just smoothing it. So I'm going to take my cutter out and replace it with a round scraper blade. The purpose of this is to go in here and just run up and down the side a little bit and clean up that surface. I've tilted it just a very slight amount. I actually don't even need the laser for this cut. I'm going to start here and go down that wall, and there's the bottom. You want to see where the cutter is? Let's do that. There's where my laser is set at the moment. I want to see what it's like at the bottom. There we go. Always be careful when you stick something in a hollow vessel with the lathe running. It's always dangerous. So you see where my cutter is, scraper in this case. As I get towards the center, if I go beyond the center, the vessel's going to want to pick this up, do this, so I don't want to go past center. So we're just cleaning up the bottom. I want to see. Oh yeah, that's what I was looking for. Another accessory. You've got a peek. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the different systems that are on the market. This is just a custom version made by some local wood turners 20 years ago. They're not in business anymore. One of my friends, I said before, made the backrest for me so I can fit it on other lathes. I've just adapted the gun sight for adjusting the cutter. But all the other systems do almost all the same things. There are some systems that have evolved so that the tailstock is what's held, that holds the tool in place. Sometimes it's held at the banjo on a post here and articulates from that point. Third ones are built in this sort of form here, where there's a frame, a back guard, and a tool holder, all evolving from the original work that before 2000 Frank Sudol was doing on very, very large vessels. Lyle Jamieson adapted that down to something that we all could use and started introducing a line of similar products, very similar to this, about that time, and has still continued to provide products. Sorby has a frame that allows you to be able to use a tool at this point. That's another brand. Trent Bosch out of Colorado has come up with a very nice stabilized system that has a bunch of articulated joints. Works from this point here. But it does the torque and it moves very, very smoothly. And you can see a number of videos online about how that works. There are many on the market Many that have been custom made, as this system here is partially custom made. A lot of options for you to work with. Turning hollow vessels and getting a thin wall can be done manually with a lot of caliper measuring. It can be done with a stabilized system like what I'm demonstrating to you today. So another option for you in turning hollow vessels, stabilized hollowing. So if we're giving you things that you're enjoying, please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you like this particular video. And we're always looking at your comments, and we appreciate them because it keeps us focused on what it is that you're interested in seeing. So tell us about that, and we'll continue to produce more videos like this. Thanks for watching. There's always other accessories that you can buy or use. First thing I want to remind you of is the fact that not only do we need our special hollow vessel cleaning tool, which we talked about on the last video, it's still in use. But one of the tools I find is almost always used is a negative rake scraper that's fairly large. Sometimes we end up with a little divot right in the bottom of the vessel that these small cutters have a very hard time finding. If I can go in here with this tool and just drop the handle right in the center, I can clean up that bottom little divot much easier. So I almost always end up using this. I showed you my laser gun sight, my custom-made post for it and so on. It works fine. And you saw the box, and it's about 50 bucks for one of these things, so it's not too expensive. But most everybody provides it with a laser that's very similar to this. I bought this through Amazon. I got 3 of them in the bag. This is red, one was green, and one was blue, and I spent $8. So these work just fine. They may fail from the vibration over time, but it doesn't matter too much. I wanted to be able to hold the switch on, so I made a little aluminum ring, which I can slip over the unit, put it into my holder, and simply by pushing down that ring onto the switch, I can have a off-on switch. Somebody else did it with just a piece of plastic, does the same job. So a couple other things that you can think about. I know you can buy custom cutters like this from a number of different sources. I don't even know where I got these, but I've had them for a very long time, and looks like I have 2 that are almost identical here. So a couple other things to think about. There's always more tools to buy. I'll see you later.